Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pete DiStefano. I'm with Tiger Technologies. Today's webinar titled RPA, Automation is not just for the production line. It's going to start now. I want to thank everyone for spending time today, whether it's out of your busy work schedule or you've given us an opportunity to share some information while you're eating your lunch. I appreciate you taking the time. So in today's presentation, I'm joined here. I'm very excited to have our Chief Product Officer, Gopi J, joining us. He'll be not only sharing some great insights on RPA, but also be showing you some examples. I think you'll find it very interesting. Again, my name is Pete DiStefano. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Tiger. So let's get going on this. So today we're going to talk about digital automation. We're going to kind of do a bit of a definition because it's a broad term. Matter of fact, I'm going to actually start my part of the presentation off with an even broader term, and hopefully we're going to bring that all down to where it makes a lot of sense for you folks that are joining us. We're going to also make sure we make clear what the impact can be by implementing digital automation for companies like yours. And you know, we are in a world today where technology for technology's sake doesn't fly. It has got to have a direct impact on your business, and it's got to have a significant ROI, and we're going to talk about that. And more than talking, and again, as we get deeper into this discussion, Gopi's going to kind of show you some examples. I think you'll find that very interesting. And then we'll talk about how do you go through this process. Okay, I'm kind of interested. What are the steps? How do I get started? So I hope that is an agenda that is pleasing to everyone who's joined us. So I'm going to start by talking about digital transformation. As I mentioned earlier, it's even a broader definition. I'm sure you've all heard about it. What does this all mean? Well, I mean, I'm going to kind of ground the discussion around digital transformation. It really is about transforming your business with technology being a core piece of your strategy. And I'm not sure there are many companies out there that technology is not having some impact on their business, whether it's an opportunity to grow their business or, quite frankly, something they believe they need to do because their competition is doing it. But transforming your business model with technology, I just want to give you guys a couple of statistics. There's about 10%. There was a survey done of I think it was several hundred business senior executives, and about 10% of the companies surveyed are what they would call themselves as fully digital. 46% of senior executives are now requiring that digital strategy become part of their company strategy. A sadder part of this is 60% of those senior executives that are implementing the digital strategy are not happy with the progress their companies made with their digital initiatives. So what is this digital transformation? What do you mean transforming the business model? Well, part of that is digitizing business operations, taking the way you've done things internally to either support or deliver a product or service. It's really digitizing the business operations. And then equally, if not more important, is totally transforming the way you deliver a customer experience, or for that matter, the employee's experience internally, which again is becoming very important today, especially with today's workforce. So now digital transformation, we could go on for quite some time. Today, we're only going to talk about one element of digital transformation, and that's automation. You know, we're going to drill down in this very specific area. So what is automation? Well, robots have been used for years on the factory floor, automating the production line. How do I make it cheaper, get it off the line faster, and make higher quality product? That's something that I think everyone can relate to with manufacturers. And you say, well, I'm not a manufacturer, why do I care? Well, automation is not just for the production line anymore. In today's world, technology is enabling software to help automate other processes that are not specific to manufacturers. These type of processes apply to, of course, manufacturers outside the factory floor, but healthcare and legal, finance, insurance, and banking, and education. So the opportunity to automate is significant. Matter of fact, just talking about automation is a fairly large topic. Today, we're going to talk about 3 specific areas of automation. So first of all, what is digital automation? Or what is intelligent digital automation? And we're going to describe that. And the reason I put the word intelligent in there is I know a lot of you have heard about artificial intelligence. And, you know, whether you're very knowledgeable of where the technology is today, or you've been watching movies for years about how computers are intelligent and they can really be a companion, well, that's now reality. And it's reality that's rooted in business return on investment. So we're going to talk about something called workflow automation to some extent. We're going to do a little bit of a definition of this thing called AI chatbots. Chatbots are becoming a very big part of the landscape for small and mid-sized businesses. You know, all of this technology we're talking about, we are talking about in the context of small and mid-sized businesses. This is not just for the large enterprises. And then the third type of automation we're going to talk about is RPA, or robotic process automation. Matter of fact, this is the one we're going to actually drill down in at the deepest level. But we wanted to try to level set the definition and the differences between these 3 types of automation. So let's start with workflow automation. And I'm sure most of you have processes within your company where there's an output from some system, and then as a human being, you take that output, you might need to make some changes, modifications, you add to it, and then it needs to get into another system, and that can go through multiple processes. Well, workflow, it's the opportunity to take all of those tasks, synchronize them, and automate them as into a single streamless process. You know, the goal is to improve productivity. You know, automating digital workflows, it basically will reduce the amount of time it takes to complete these manual tasks, even if some of those processes were automated and some of that workflow came out of, say, a supply chain or came from a CRM system. There was follow-on tasks that a human being would get engaged with. So by providing a workflow automation, you basically stitch it all together as a single process. Okay, what's an AI chatbot? Well, this is basically a computer program. It's a software robot that simulates human conversation, but intelligently. It actually has been programmed to provide a service. For example, if you need to get some information about benefits that you have, you can ask the chatbot information. You give it the information about who you are. It'll automatically go into a system, find out what your benefits are, and share that information to you. There's a variety of service tasks, customer service tasks, information gathering that could be automated by a chatbot, as opposed to today where you might have customer service, you're on the phone, you're on hold, you're waiting for someone. I had an experience not too long ago where I was trying to purchase a cell phone, and I was on the phone for 2 hours trying to get some basic information. Well, the opportunity there, because there was a very high workload at that time, if that company either combined their current service with a chatbot, not only could these people be serviced quickly and with as much quality, if not more quality, but a chatbot's a software product that can be running 24 hours, 7 days a week. Chatbots can help you generate leads. It can guide, just like a human being, it can guide a prospect into different products and services that you offer. It can provide suggestions based on information, based on a conversation between that human being, taking that information, processing it intelligently, and representing some suggestions on maybe, you know, clothing or you know, a type of shoe in a retail example. And then, quite frankly, chatbots are quite affordable and they're pretty easy to implement. I know this feels like rocket science and artificial intelligence, but it's an opportunity to take advantage of providing some of those repetitive tasks that a lot of your service support. And we'll talk about that, although today that is not our primary discussion. As a matter of fact, we'll be doing some future sessions that are directly targeting AI and chatbots. And then finally, the third thing is, what is robotic process automation? And this is where the rest of our session is really going to do a deep dive. But if you look at RPA, basically what you're doing, if you've got a lot of repetitive tasks, take an example of a bunch of forms are coming in, and those forms have to be validated if they're correct before they're then inputted into a system. Or there's some tasks that can be provided. Hey, I forgot my password, or I'm sorry, other types of automation where you get some information and then needs to be put into a spreadsheet, and then from that spreadsheet it needs to be filed, or automatically notifying somebody as a result of a status that's been triggered. So there's a variety of things you can do with RPA where basically you're building a robot to replace a series of repetitive tasks that were typically done by an employee or a human being, that now the robot can take over and do those tasks. So again, applicable across multiple industries. Most of the ROI on these type of solutions that we've seen is in less than 12 months, which again, as I mentioned earlier, is very important with any implementation of technology. Very scalable, and what's really important when it comes to all of these tools, you now have analytics to evaluate progress, productivity, so a very powerful solution. So just to kind of summarize the differences, chatbot, it's really, it can emulate a human conversation and provide an automated service. With a workflow, it really is stitching together multiple system outputs and maybe human process together in one streamlined digital process. And with RPA, it's really performing these manual repetitive tasks that were previously performed by a human that now can be performed by a software robot. So the similarities, I believe, are pretty obvious. These are all about improving efficiency, being more responsive, reducing costs, improving quality, and then finally improving customer and employee experience. I'm guessing that every one of you knows how important it is and how demanding customers are today. Well, I'll tell you, the newer generation of employee, to get them engaged, to get them to feel good, to have them enjoy what they're doing, there's an expectation there as well. And these type of solutions can help both internal and customer-facing prospects. Well, look, I just wanted to kind of give you guys a high-level summary. We have a lot to cover and a lot to show. So at this point, I am going to pass it on to Gopi, and he's going to now take you into a deep dive on RPA. Gopi, it's all yours.
Thanks, Pete, for setting up the context of automation and a brief background of about workflow automation, chatbots, and RPA. So this RPA is all about robotic process automation, which you all might have heard about this buzzword for a while, and people misinterpret RPA in a different terminology and with a different set of a context. I'm here to explain about what this RPA is really meant for, and I'm going to show you some of the live demonstrations of the use cases of how RPA solves some of the complex problems, and able to show how your organization can take RPA into your landscape as well. So with that, when RPA makes sense. So this slide is very, very important for us to know when will RPA can fit into your organization. Wherever we feel there is some insufficient processes that are being there, where we feel there are a lot of manual workarounds that has to happen with too many errors, and those are being inconsistency, and if you feel there are too much of labor cost involved here, plus moreover, if you look at the IT systems that are currently being there will be a lot of IT systems or with a different set of platforms which they don't talk each other. And people still perform the IT operations on their own style, and people work very independently, and they always complain about the work, and most of the time, a lot of companies are saying we are fully using all the skills. So these are all the various parameters where we can consider for RPA into your landscape. To just put it in a nutshell, wherever we feel there is a repetitive task that has to be automated, that's where the RPA is best candidate, where we can eliminate the manual intervention and make the seamless automation being performed for the entire processes. What are all the ideal use cases that we can start? Let me just give you some of the detailed use cases as well in the subsequent slides, but just put it here: front office, back office, and the middle office. So these are all the three areas that we can consider for typical use cases where we feel there are a lot of manual, repetitive tasks being happening across all over the industry. Let's say, for example, if I'm talking about the front office, there is a customer service and a support or a service desk operations have been happening. Like Pete mentioned earlier, a lot of people would have spent time in retrieving a basic information over a call for a long time. That can be completely eliminated. And there will be a lot of people entering data on the paper and feeding in those information from paper to the systems, which is more time consuming and more cumbersome processes. Those can be very much automated. And likewise, visitor management, gate pass, security, those sort of things can be very much automated from a front office perspective, where most of the paper files and the digital files which are being run silos can be an ideal candidate for automation, especially on the RPA side. Then comes up to the back office and the clerical work, especially on the administration and also on the reporting side. This is one of the ideal candidates for RPA, where you don't have to really do a manual mundane task again and again, and most of the back office and the clerical operations can be very much automated. Let me just throw you one of the classic use case on the back office side. Let's say if you have an employee onboarding process. Let me just give you a workflow of what is an employee onboarding process. When I like employee onboards into the company, he has to go through several set of a team, have to perform several set of an operation. Like administrative team have to allocate him the seat desk, allocate him the laptop, and allocate him the specific flows for him. Then comes the network and administrative team. This team have to help them in terms of providing the proper laptops and the desktops and the network access, Wi-Fi access, and everything. Then third comes the HR operations. So human resources operations have to create them an ID card, and they have to collect and collaborate with all these teams to make sure that the employee is onboarded appropriately on the day when he is entering into the office. Imagine if there are about 1,000 employees or 500 contractors where you're loading on every day, where HR is making the same mundane process again and again, which is completely error prone. Lot of times we are getting complaints of laptops are not provided the day one because HR missed it on the first day. So there is a big bunch of a checklist that every people are doing up. So this is one of the very, very ideal candidate, which I'm going to demonstrate to you in the next slide, how easy and how quick it is to onboard an employee with absolutely no error with the seamless integration. One of the beauty of RPA is all about you don't have to change your front-end technologies or the technology landscapes that you are working upon right now. You don't have to purchase any new softwares. You don't have to make any kind of an newer tools introduction over here. It's like all about connecting your dots of the various platforms that you have right now working, plus make your manual repetitive tasks to get completely automated. That is one of the very interesting use cases which we are going to demonstrate. Then comes the IT optimization. This is one of the very, very interesting area that IT support and the help desk. One of a customer who's a UK-based firm, they are getting up about 8,000 service request calls every day, and their back office administrative team sitting back in Manila. And out of 8,000 requests, 6,700 requests are just only for password reset. This could be an ideal candidate to automate this particular process so that those people can work and utilize the productivity on a different way rather than helping the people to do like password reset. These are some of the ideal low-hanging use cases that we can straightforward take it up and then run them on a like long term. So now, key benefits of RPA. Yes, of course, increase the performance. As I told you in the onboarding process, if you want to load for 1 people, it's going to take about the same time to load about 20 people. So the performance is going to be really high, and which will heavily avoid the human errors. As I mentioned before, when you have a checklist prepared, the checklist runs automatically one by one without missing even a single piece of record. And of course, 24/7 operations because there is no people involved here. Let me throw you one more example of 24/7 operation. One of our customer back in again UK has thrown out this particular problem. They are getting an email-based request every day, and customers respond back with the email-based customer service request, and their customer service representatives work between 9 to 5. And beyond that, all the emails get accumulated, and next day morning when these guys open the inbox, they see a big bunch of emails getting loaded, and it's very, very hard for them to read all the emails and load them back into the screen. So we will propose them the wonderful option, which I'm going to still show the demo to you, of how to read the emails intelligently and assign the ticket appropriately, which can run 24/7 without any kind of an interruption, which would definitely reduce cost. Up to 80% is very subjective. So here in this particular email option, we've shown up a 98% of cost reduction because it runs 24/7. And of course, scalability. To just quote my previous example of password reset opportunity, if you look at it, you don't have to really appoint a lot of agents to respond back to those questions. Rather, the most of the robots are going to definitely change up the a scalable option over there. Now let me get into some of the key actions or the live demonstrations of employee onboarding process, which I'm going to demonstrate to you. I believe there are a lot of technology tool providers in the market right now who provides the technology capability, but as a company, what we do is that we take those tools and then automate the basic workflows and basic integrations, and we also build a custom RPA. Wherever the tools doesn't allow to perform operations, we as a company help our customers to make a custom RPA utilities and the plugins to make sure the operations are seamlessly performing without any interruptions. Without most of the talk, I'm going to walk you through the a live demonstration of this.
Okay, so as I switch over, I just wanted to let everyone know we've actually had a couple of questions. If you have any questions at all, to make this this session as valuable as it can be for you, feel free to go in, use the Q&A, and at the end of the session, we'll make sure we go over every one of the questions. If we have an issue with time, we'll make sure we get back to you, but please fill in as many questions you have, and especially having Gopi here, he's amazing. We'll be able to answer all your questions.
Thank you, Pete.
All right, just a second here.
This use case is typically for a employee onboarding process. So here is what it typically works. HR is loading up 100 to 200 contractors every day, and each and every contractors would be assigned into various departments, and it's very hard for the HR to make the mundane repetitive task again and again. Rather, what we have proposed is that load all of the information in a Excel spreadsheet, or the data can also come from a different set of backend systems. Once these informations are being fed into the backend system from the HR operations, those data will be taken up and fed into the HRMS application. So here we are not introducing any new HRMS application. We are utilizing customers' default HRMS applications which they are already using up. Some people might be using SAP, people can use PeopleSoft, or you can also use any of your custom HRMS modules also. So without disturbing your existing system, how this automation is going to help is the beauty of RPA. Here, in a minute, I can onboard about 50 to 60 people because it doesn't take much of the time for me to go and fill in all the data again and again. And this is one of the process which you're seeing on the demo is one of the process of onboarding an employee, which is, as I told you before, there are about 10 to 15 checklists that you normally have. And the first checklist is to create an ID card. So this is an ID card process. So ID card processing was hardly taken up about 30 seconds to create one particular ID card. So that is the time frame, that's the value we are trying to give it back. So the HR can definitely focus on their core business work rather than creating the ID cards, creating the offer letters, and or talking to the network administrative teams and etc. So with this is completely error prone. Absolutely, there is not going to be any kind of an errors over here. Plus the integration is extremely seamless, and you don't have to replace your existing HRMS. That is the beauty of it. Now let me also talk about one more use case from the UK-based company for the ticket creation. This ticket creation is extremely complicated from a company to company. So if you look at the ticket creation, people can use Remedy, people can use Jira. There are a lot of various tools that you're using for your ticketing system. So as I told you before in the earlier conversation, how are you going to create a ticket? So for example, the workflow goes like this. I write an email to my customer support executives, and my bot is going to read the email, intelligently create a ticket to the corresponding ticketing company. So that is the beauty of RPA, again, as I told you before. Let me also show you the live demonstration of this ticketing creation workflow as well. So here, if you look at it, this video is going to run for 3 minutes. I'm going to just move around so that you are focusing on the core things. So this is the place where we'll be like write an email of what are the issues all about. Once the issues are being loaded, automatically an email will be sent back into the normal. I'm like using Gmail for the demonstrations right now, but this can be your Outlook, it can be your Lotus Notes, it can be any of the other things that you really have. So here is what the workflow goes like this. If you look at it, fetching an email, separating an email objects, and then make an operation. So that is all about it pretty typically does. And let me just take a pass over here. If you look at it, we are reading the data from the email, making a few parameters, making a machine learning models to assign to the right project teams. This is very, very critical because there could be n number of teams managing the tickets. So the tickets has to be rightly assigned. So the content has to be read, and the machine learning predictive models will help us to know what is the right team that I'm going to assign. Then comes about setting up a data for a Jira APA call and call the Jira and then raise a ticket. Once the ticket is raised successfully, an SMS has to be triggered. So this is one of the very, very simple, straightforward use case that we are able to solve it up in a matter of time. So I've shown you these are the various ways to create the robotic process automation scripts. And once the scripts are being properly structured and defined, then comes the execution piece of it. So what are you seeing in the screen? Bot runs automatically, goes and create the project, choose what is the right set of a project it's supposed to create the ticket, and correspondingly raise the ticket on the particular module. And once the ticket has been properly raised in Jira, the SMS is going to be triggered back into people's mobile phone. Like look at it, the ticket gets created. Yes, here you go. And the customer, this gives the customers delighted insights as well. Like as a customer, I sent a mail to my customer service representative, and I'm getting an acknowledgement with the ticket ID, which is very concrete for me, when I can refer the ticket number tomorrow when I call back them or whenever I'm talking to them. This gives more confidence for the customer support in terms of yes, my issues are being taken care and someone is addressing my issue. Not just only I sent a mail and then waiting for hours and hours whether my email is picked up or not. This is a very, very interesting use case for me. And this has shown a big amount of value in terms of the ROI perspective as well. Next, I will show you one more ticketing system from an Outlook model. Yes. This is a company back in Asia where these have an email-based support. Here, the problem is a little bit trickier. They have 9 to 5 customer support, live agents responding back to the emails, but after 5, their customer service is going to go down, plus their backend application is also going to go down. So this one will work on a batch processing model. What it does is that it reads the email automatically from Outlook every time that you're running up, plus it like stores it on the buffer. And whenever the system is up and running, it like goes and syncs up onto the buffer. So it like works on an offline model. So the customer is getting a seamless operation without making any kind of a disturbance. So this one is also again integrated with a Jira. That is the beauty of it. So if you look at it, yes, this is my issue with my pressure cooker, and can someone be able to resolve this particular issue? Yes, here you go. The issue has been properly allocated, and the tickets will be raised on a very simple fashion. Yes, here you go. The ticket is raised. So the customer is pretty happy about giving them a good experience of my issue has been considered, and the right team is appropriately handling this particular stuff. And an email confirmation also will get triggered back to the customer. So these are all some of the simple workflows. Yes. These are the simple workflows that we are able to articulate. This might look pretty simple in terms of execution, but when you look at it, these solves very, very complex problems of about eliminating people time, running in 24/7 support, giving them a customer delight experience, so on and so forth. So RPA is definitely revolutionizing this particular space, I would say, in terms of this back office, this front office, and all these kind of examples. Now I'm going to give you another very, very interesting use cases from another Asian company where these guys are getting up about 2,000 documents per day. They freelance the Word documents across various people, and they've got about 1,200 employees are formatting those Word documents and giving back to the editor so that editor can read the documents and publish accordingly. Imagine the complexity of the use case over here, but again, this is a repetitive, mundane task. I have a Word document. All I'm going to do is just open the Word document, reformat them, understand what those sections are, align them appropriately so my editor is giving it to the publishing department. This is a very, very interesting use case that we have solved upon. I will just show the live demo also of this particular use case. So we have used in a tool called as UiPath to do this particular operation. If you look at it, we call it a word automation, the MS Word automation. So what it does is that it goes and reads the Word document from the particular folder or from the particular server. It reads the Word document and aligns them one by one, depending on the phrases that have been given there. Like these are all the raw content by the freelancers. So they just prepare the raw content, put it on the standard template and give it back to them, which is not formatted. And the publishers are finding very hard for them to publish because the formats are not consistent. Look at it, the script runs automatically, formats everything, aligns them appropriately, put them into the right standard, give them the right set of headings, balancing it up, aligning it well, and storing it in a shared common folder so anything can be seamlessly executed. See, if you look at it, it executes in 3 minutes. So formatting a Word document took me about 3 minutes for me to format my whole bunch of 100-page document. Imagine the amount of savings that the customers are able to see and then realize and then value them. This is a very straightforward use case and the problem. So you can imagine taking up these use cases and apply it in your projects as well to see what is the value that we are going to give it back to your customer base and also to your employees as well. I will just move on to these are the live stuff that we have seen. Is now how do we go forward from here? So there are 2 use cases that I'm going to show you as well of about we solved some of the complex problems for now the leading healthcare provider back in Texas. So these guys have about 10,000 records they are generating every day, but the problem is these records are sitting over Citrix, which is very, very hard to read from the technology standpoint. And the member portal needs 10,000 records or the data with a various set of data combinations. And these data have to be entered into the ERP or to the CRM application. Some of them are getting into Google Maps as well. Imagine the complexity of the integration elements with a various set of technology landscape systems. One with the Citrix, another one with the ERP, another one with the Google Maps. Imagine the diversity of the technology stack that have been there, how my process is going to be seamlessly automated. Here comes a solution that we have proposed in terms of building an automation suite which has a capability of making an easier data entry, scraping of the data, and making an intelligent workflow. And moreover, if you look at the major challenge that we have faced, that the final data has to be entered on the SAP, but SAP is sitting on Citrix. And most of the automation tools right now are struggling to recognize the Citrix objects and then able to put them on the Citrix environment. But that is one of the complex problems that we have solved is we are able to break the Citrix environment and be able to make the automation seamlessly executed. This was one of the examples that I quoted you earlier for one of the UK-based customer automating the visitor entry, gate pass, biometric registration, attendance, assets tagging, and entering all the productivity metrics on the SAP. All the 6 different applications are in a 6 different fashion, 6 different technology stack, but they all solve one complex problem of automation, of reduction, or reducing the manual effort. So with that, I will just move on to the next thing of called as process from discovery to deployment. I would strongly recommend as an RPA expert to you guys to look at RPA as a journey more than a technology. RPA should be considered as a long-term journey. It doesn't mean that yes, I put an RPA one time, yes, boom, it goes and then it moves away. No, it has to be a long-time journey or the partnership between IT and the business both together. Because business drives the process, IT runs the technology, and these 2 partnerships makes a successful RPA implementation. Then comes the leadership. This is also my another recommendation. As I mentioned before, RPA as a tool, leadership plays a critical role because the leader has to give them the top-down approach of about making this as a cultural change. Because people should not think that, am I going to lose my job? Absolutely no, because you will be used into making a different set of a productive work rather than you are putting your time on a mundane manual task. So the culture has to be educated from top to bottom. So the leadership has to be extremely strong enough and having a big bonding to make this project success. And finally, the proper budgets has to be allocated for RPA. We all strive for automation, but with the budgets, this cannot go wrong. So my advice would be strongly is to consider RPA as a business process driven rather than the technology driven. Technology is like addition for a business process rather than it has to be looked up like a tour to make sure that we have a right partnership in place between IT and business, make a right leadership decisions, and look from a top-down approach, plus allocate the right sort of a budget. So these are getting properly allocated, and the RPA's values are getting properly realized. Yes. What I'm recommending as a part of steps in RPA implementation is, I do have a problem of maybe typing in 10,000 documents a day, or like loading an employee onboarding, let's say for example. And how am I going to get started with this one? So this is going to be for an RPA implementation. I would recommend first, before we get into the stage, take up one proof of concept. Take one complex problem or one complex process. Let's say if I'm taking up an onboarding process, instead of I like take it up my ID creation, I would say whether my flow is going to take the email from network administrators to HR to admin groups to finance, all these integrations to happen. So I will take one complex scenario and do a proof of concept. Second, I will define what is my RPA implementation and what are all the partners who are going to be involved over here. What is the ideal case that I'm going to do it up? Then I'll make a pilot. This is extremely critical. After making a proof of concept, I will define my RPA implementation and make one small pilot to make sure that how it has been properly rendered and how the performance has been properly monitored and measured. With this one, I will just get back into the left-hand side of the steps where I call as best practices, form a center of excellence, and then establish the right set of a process to get going. This as a long-term model, because RPA, as I told you before, it's a business-driven, and it is a journey, and it is not a one-time activity that you just go and do it up. And the technology also plays a vital role. So I would strongly recommend you guys to take up a proof of concept, take one complex flow, don't take a simple flow, take a complex flow, automate them with the right sort of a tool, pilot it very small for one use case or two use cases, then adopt all the best practices, appropriately give it back to the COE champions, and then do it on long term with the establishment work. Yes, I've like rushed up the earlier slide of about what are the various steps. Now let me get back into details of about how do I make my RPA as a solution-based approach. Step number one, assess. This assess is a very important priority. Like I need to say, I have to identify what are all my ideal candidates for automation. I know that I'm like spending a lot of time on data entry, or I'm doing a lot of work on the data scraping, or am I doing on the data feeding, or where am I spending a lot of my time. So choose those as an ideal candidate, and then prepare an automation assessment scorecard, which will help us to prepare or identify the ideal candidate automatically. Then we'll have to prepare a CBA, which is a cost benefit analysis for ideal candidates. Yes, we might think this is an ideal candidate for automation, but CBA will help us to identify what is ideal candidate for automation, conduct a quick proof of concept, as I mentioned before, and then go ahead. Once the assess phase is over, we'll have to prioritize. This is extremely critical task, because based on automation scorecard and the CBA report on the top savings, candidates should be started at first. Then manual repeated task should be on the initial focus. And I've been telling this from the first, wherever we feel there is a mundane manual repetitive task, let's take them as a immediate priority. Then we are going to implement it. So here is a place where we'll have a big challenge of about, there are a bunch of tools and products available. What is the tool I'm going to choose? What is the tool I'm going to rightly implement it? So it depends upon the tech stack that you are choosing up. So and we have to define a solution appropriately that is going to fit in onto the various tech stacks. Let's say, for example, you have got SAP and you've got Zoho, and you also have your own custom developed platform. You have to make sure that the tools that you're choosing or the solution that you're designing should match with all these three different sets of tech stack. And we'll also have to mitigate any of the hardware and the software requirements that are going to be there. Plus, capture standard operating procedures and then make sure that we're going live by choosing the right set of tool sets. Then comes about the user training and the transition to the customers. Once you've automated your normal process, it has to go into proper training so that the people doesn't feel that, yes, my job is taken over. No, you will be utilized on a different valuable purposes, and your manual mundane tasks have been replaced with the bots. I have implemented, then what next? I need to measure them. I need to measure them and make sure that I'm constantly evolving. Data analytics plays a vital role over here to measure the automation scripts that I've been running up so far, and what's the value I'm like realizing. Unless and until you capture all the productivity metrics and stuff like that, you won't be able to measure how your RPA values are getting realized. And all these processes have to be constantly evolving. I think I've been repeating again and again. The constant evolving as a RPA as a journey will definitely help, and it's not just a one-time activity you build and just done. Then comes improve on a like long-term perspective. You will have to periodically review the analytics that has been given by the RPA tools to make sure that we are evaluating the productivity gains and incorporate the feedbacks and learn the lessons appropriately. And we'll have to constantly update the remarks because there will be a lot of upgrades being like coming in, and sometimes bot might skip certain sort of times, and so we'll have to constantly monitor, track, improve, and evolve. Plus, we'll also have to add more use cases as well on a like long term to make the RPA journey very, very successful. Yes, how do we get the journey started? I've been talking about this journey and how do we work, and this is how we as Impaiger as a company, RPA Pioneer, been helping you to say about how you can get started with Impaiger on RPA. Like look at it, the green boxes are for the offshoring activity, and the blue boxes will go into a onshore activity. So the initial the recommendation was about 4 weeks assessment to understand what am I going to automate and what are the ideal candidates for RPA's value realization. So the first week is like going to be assessing the RPA candidate, which is prepare a project plan, circulate the interview, talk to the multiple people who are on the business side, absolutely on the business side, not on the technology side. Yes, RPA can also give a values on the technology side as well, but the initial focus should be conducting proper interviews with the business team to make sure that what are the manual, what are the tasks that are being performing right now, and make exploratory interviews also with the like technical teams, then consolidate all the findings. Once we have this project planning and preparation being done, then comes the assess study. This is very, very critical for every other company to know what am I having right now. Yes, these are all my assessment key focus areas, and these are all my initial findings, and prepare a current state assessment report is what Impaiger does for our customers. This assess study is extremely critical for me to make a gap analysis and also to define my RPA scope. So here you go on the gap analysis. This one goes for 1 week of time to make sure that what are all the gaps that we have in the assess study, then consolidate the assessment findings sitting with various stakeholders and prepare a gap analysis report. This report is extremely critical and is one of the major deliverables that will be part of the assessment. Then comes about defining an RPA scope. Yes, now I know I've got my assess study report. I've got where is the gap. Now I have to identify what are all my appropriate RPA candidates. Now here comes to consolidate the current identified candidates and prepare a future state to be report and get a sign off on the future state report on the RPA side. This stage is extremely critical for us to filter the candidates, prepare a CBA, conduct a proof of concept, and then take it along on a long term. Then comes about the target recommendation. This is what we recommend to the customers. This is one of the biggest deliverable at the end of the assessment, where we will define the RPA scope very clearly of about what are all a list of ideal candidates for automation and why do we recommend them, and we'll prepare the recommendations across to the various stakeholders and construct the implementation roadmap of about when to start and what to start first, along with the tool selection and the proof of concept as well. Tool selection is also one of the very, very critical tasks, because tool selection makes the work more complicated, and also it can also make the work much more easier as well. Depending upon the tech stack that we have at the backend, the appropriate tool selection will happen from the Impaiger standpoint, and then we'll strongly recommend to use the pre-built tools that are available in the market. If the tools are not solving the complex problems, then we also make a custom RPA utilities also for our customers.
Okay, great. So, Gopi, that was awesome. You know, we've already got several questions where we're going to get to in a moment, and there are several questions around timeline and cost and justification, and we'll get to that in a moment. The purpose of this session was primarily to educate, provide you some idea, kind of ground some of this discussion you've probably heard or read about in some definition, also kind of differentiate the different types of automation. But as a company for 14 years, Impaiger has basically been enabling digital transformation. People weren't calling that until a few years ago. But that's kind of what we do, and the experience we have across the spectrum of digital transformation, and especially what we're talking about now in automation. Gopi gave you an example of how to go through an assessment. And as a smaller mid-sized company, whether it's with your IT team or in a lot of cases with your business, to try to help you identify, that's the first thing. It's not just identifying what would be a candidate, but what the potential ROI is. So I'm going to move into the questions, and because there's quite a few of them, and make sure we get through all of them. The first question, and again, this is around the same idea, and I'm going to start the answer to this one because the rest of them I'm going to give to Gopi, and then I'll pass to him. The question is for HR onboarding, what's a typical workload that makes sense, that makes it worthwhile, and how many new employees, given a certain time period, makes the ROI fall within a 12-month period? And I'm going to give you a little bit of an it depends and why, and then I'll let Gopi go further.
Sure.
But the bottom line is, it really is a calculation. And the great thing about automation, it really is just a calculation on ROI. So you sit down and you'll say, okay, how many employees on average are you onboarding? And is it just the onboarding? Is it updating information? And you figure out how much time is being spent in that process, how many times it's done, and quite frankly, you compare that to the cost of automating that process, and it's a very easy equation. So it's all in the identification, doing the assessment, and then you can evaluate. So I know that wasn't exactly the answer you wanted. I don't know if there's something you'd like to add to that.
Definitely, Pete. And I would like to give one case study for one of the campaigns that we have conducted recently for the same UK-based customer on employee onboarding. One fine part, there were about 600 contractors how to be loaded. This was the biggest workflow that we have got. And the entire process of onboarding the new contractors, like assigning them the right set of job allocations, creating them the temporary ID cards, printing them the badges, and giving them the right job sets, the entire process took about 13 hours of onboarding all the 600 employees. Like earlier time, it used to take up about 2 to 3 weeks with a bunch of people working on the back end.
Right.
So that was one of the direct cost savings that we're able to give back to the customer.
Right, but I think this question is, what if I don't have 600 contractors? What if I have 15 or 20 or, at what point does it make sense? And that again, I think it really depends on doing the math. And I think you figure that out. Matter of fact, when you do the assessment and you look at the different elements of automation, whether it be for the back office, whether it be for HR, that's why you look at them and you prioritize them 2 ways. What is the effort for the automation? What effort is time and cost? And what is the impact to my business? So you look at both of those, and that's how you sort of kind of float the priorities from top to bottom. So it's something that can be answered. I don't think we can give you a simple answer to that question without a little more detail about your current environment. So another question we have is just how much does it cost to build an automated solution with RPA? Gopi?
Yeah, it again depends. It's subjective to the use case and to the complexity and tools capacity and everything. But I will quote you one simple driver onboarding process for one of the taxi aggregation company. So we built that particular solution for about $25,000 for a period of 6 weeks down the line is what the implementation time that it really took to onboard new drivers that get enrolled into the taxi application platform. So it varies from $25,000 to maybe $500,000 depending upon the use case that you're trying to solve. The one that I gave you is a basic minimum stuff that we have recently worked upon.
Okay. So again, it's sort of it depends, but kind of straightforward RPA, it's quite reasonable. But even the more complex ones, again, it's what's great about this. It's not nebulous. It's not a fuzzy ROI. You really can calculate what is the benefit, and then you can evaluate it as you're going. Are you getting those expected benefits? Another question we got was, can RPA access third-party websites with credentials and navigate the website as well?
Yes, of course. RPA can definitely access third-party website as long as CAPTCHA is not being provided over there. That's what it prevents by doing it, because RPA can happen both from the server side and also from the front-end side. So this is highly possible. Yes, of course.
Okay. So I'm going to go through 2 more questions, and then I think we're going to call it a time, unless there's one more you'd like to add. So the question I have next is, can RPA utilize OCR?
Definitely. OCR is one of the ideal candidates for RPA-based automation because there are a lot of paperwork that have been there, can very well be considered as ideal part of automation candidate. However, I wanted to tell you or advise a portion over here, handwritten part of OCRs are still not yet mature. If it is a printed form-based OCRs, yes, of course, those can be an ideal candidate for RPA candidates, but the handwrittens are still being there, and the plugins and the utilities are not yet still mature to handle the 100% accuracy, whereas 60 to 80% accuracy is what right now we are seeing as leaders on the OCR side.
Great. Last question. So what's the difference between RPA and business process management, or BPM?
Yeah, definitely it's a good question. So RPA and BPM. So if I'm having a business process and I want to build a business process, that's how the BPM tools are getting used to, building up a business processes. RPA is taking up those built-in processes and automate them on a simpler fashion. So these are two different animals altogether, and not to get confused, because a lot of people are getting confused with RPA, BPM, and all this stuff, but these are ultimately different entities altogether.
Great. Well, look, I want to thank everyone for spending time with us today. I hope you found this valuable. In Piger, we're going to be doing a variety of these. We call it our digital transformation series. So keep an eye out for some of those invites. We're also going to make sure we get you access to this slide deck that we presented, and you'll even have access to a recording if you want to go back through, go home, share this presentation with your family. Just kidding. But I do appreciate you taking the time. This is a very exciting area, and I know I've said this several times. What I love about this area of implementing technology, there's clarity on the value it is to your business, whether it's the value in engaging with customers or the value it brings to your internal processes, whether it be improving efficiencies, directly reducing costs. So again, Gopi, thank you very much. Well done. And I wanted to thank one more time everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. We're out. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.